Voddie Baucham passed away today, as I'm sure you have heard. And this is just a real off-the-cuff kind of video. Really just talking through, processing some of my feelings and my emotions and wanting just a little bit of feedback, like, where are you? What are your thoughts? I don't have the answers. I'm sure you don't have the answers. I just needed to talk about it. Maybe you do too. I'm actually out walking my dog right now, and I'm still just reeling from finding out the news that Voddie Baucham passed away today. It just feels so surreal, so soon after Charlie Kirk passing away, not that long after John MacArthur passed away. It feels like these amazing men who love Jesus and these men who were unafraid to speak out for gospel truth, that were not afraid of pushback from any and all sources. They were not afraid to speak the truth. Hey, Katie, stop. Mind your manners. They were not afraid to speak the truth, and they're being taken away from us. I'm reeling. It feels so unbelievable. Things got a little hairy with my dog, so I am back at home in the backyard now. So as I was saying, we're left reeling. I'm left reeling after hearing this news. And we have these questions, it's not just about Voddie Baucham passing away. It's not just about Charlie Kirk passing away. It's not just about John MacArthur passing away, but it's about these men as a whole, and why there seems to be so many of them passing away. So these questions we have, or I guess I should say these questions that I have, it's not so much, why, God? Like, why are you taking them from us? It's not that I'm questioning his reasoning or his sovereignty, because God is sovereign and he's in control of all things. And I know that everything that happens on this earth, including the passing of these wonderful men of God, he uses everything for his glory and for the benefit of his people, those whom he has called according to his purpose. I'm not questioning God on that. I guess the question that I'm left with is, what do we do? How does this affect us? How does this affect me? 3 amazing men. Not that I agreed with everything that they said, but these were men of God, and they spoke biblical truth. Not perfect, no, but truly they spoke biblical truth. And we could trust in the things that they said. We could trust the teaching that they gave. So with their passing, with us being now left without 3 amazing men of God in a world where there are so many false teachers, even as I continue to just unpack this, I think this is probably what I'm struggling with most. It is this grieving, this loss of men that we knew when they were speaking from the word, when they were speaking about the Lord, that they were speaking truth. And there's so much false teaching out there. You know, there are so many people out there preaching an altered gospel message, which is no gospel message at all. There are so many false teachers preaching a false gospel message for their own benefit, and a lot of it sounds good, but it's not all true. They're preaching a partially true message, of God. And you know, I've said this before, discernment is not knowing the difference between right and wrong. Discernment is knowing the difference between right and almost right. And this is why I'm left reeling. This is why I'm left reeling over the passing of Voddie Baucham, again, Charlie Kirk and John MacArthur, because what they preached was unadulterated gospel truth. And I could trust in that, you know. I could listen to a sermon by John MacArthur or Voddie Baucham and know and trust that it was true, not just partially true, but fully true, because they spoke a gospel message. Yeah, I think this is the hardest part. It's losing trusted men of God, losing men that we knew were going to speak the unadulterated gospel message in a world that is so filled with false teaching. So now what do we do, you know? What do we do? And I know that there are still trusted men of God out there. We have John Piper and we have Paul Washer. We have Alistair Begg. I know there are more. It's just that we've lost 3 and we're grieving that loss. And I think it's okay. I think it's okay for us to grieve that loss. But I guess what we need to remember, and I guess what I need to remember, is that because God is sovereign, because we can trust that He really is working all things together for the good of those who love Him and are called according to His purpose, that even in our great loss, heaven's great gain, but even in our great loss, that God still has a plan and a purpose. A plan to make His name known, to glorify His name throughout all the earth. And this, I guess, is where I will find my comfort, even though I don't have all the answers, even though I am still left reeling, as I'm sure many of you are. Our hope, our trust is in the sovereignty of God, and knowing that in His sovereignty, even when seemingly bad things are happening, He is always good. That is where we find our hope.